I'm gonna call the meeting to order, 6 o'clock, with the pledge to the flag, and have to use the flag outside. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so roll call. Let the record reflect that all directors are here. Board chair comments. We're starting out a little funny here because we got a video we're going to do right away, but we got to get to that. So just bear with us here. So approval of agenda.
Yes, I would recommend that to show the video first so the crowd can see your faces later on and you're sitting at the table.
Okay. We have a video that we need to watch for the Minnesota High School League. We're going to put that in right after approval of agenda. So somebody want to make a motion to amend the agenda?
So moved.
Mary, do you want to second it? Okay. All right. Been moved by Director Hofstad and seconded by Director Lang to amend the agenda to have the high school league video after approval of agenda. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, agenda is approved. All right, time for the video.
Incredible amount of time, energy, and resources on their child's sports experiences.
Private coaches, tryouts, travel tournaments, and increasing pressure to specialize in a single sport at an early age.
The reality is less than 3% of our athletes will ever go on to play college, and less than 1% of our athletes will ever play professionally.
This means 97% of students will have a terminal experience. When they graduate, their competitive playing days are over. So what's the purpose?
The purpose is the human growth and development of our students and connecting them to caring adults in their learning community.
For this to happen, it takes leadership and a community aligned around this purpose.
The purpose of a caring adult in students' lives has never been more important. Students face an incredible amount of pressure. There's peer pressure and social pressure and academic pressure and pressure to perform on the playing field or in the arts area. And what that's resulting in is a mental health crisis where kids are facing anxiety and depression. There's a study called Hardwired to Connect that identifies 3 fundamental needs that every human being has: the need to belong, the need to have some type of moral development. And we define moral as relationships to other people. And then that base community, which is really being held accountable to a set of expectations and boundaries. Athletic and activity programs can really provide a caring community for students. It's a place for them to be connected. It takes leadership to intentionally create connections and to create a culture that supports students in a caring community.
My purpose statement is to coach to create a love of the game and foster community and growth among our student athletes.
Shift your weight forward and backward.
The AD is the front-facing public person that's really leading the charge for all of the things that happen within that program that, again, are so beneficial to the student.
A strong activities director, athletic director is going to have the pulse of their school, is going to influence and impact the students through others and create that experience that we're looking for all kids.
In my particular role as the activities director, I call it leading from the middle up. I need to work with my principal and my superintendent, and I need to work with my school board to understand what purpose-based activities are, what they look like, what they should feel like with our student athletes. And then I need to train coaches, work with athletes, work with our student body.
The value of a strong activities director for the entire system is something that I can't put a price tag on. We've got 3 brand new board members. And it's important for school board members to understand the purpose of our activities and athletic programs so that they remember their role in supporting our work and supporting our staff and in supporting our activities director and what he does.
We are really here to change the arc of every athlete's life. I think the most important thing I do is connect students to each other, connect students to the school day, connect students to meaningful adults.
We want to win a state tournament. We want to have a winning record. But what's most important than that is having a winning culture.
It's all about the student experience, and that doesn't necessarily equate to winning, but that equates to being able to walk away saying, I had fun, I got better, I did the best that I could, I want to continue, I know more about myself, and I'm more prepared for whatever might come my way in the future.
We have to align our communities in order for athletic administrators and coaches to be supported.
Our school board knows that we're about more than just wins and losses, that we're part of the educational program and part of the educational system. It's great to be able to show up at work every day, knowing that you're supported by your school board, your superintendent, and your principal, and that you have the ability to support your coaches, athletes, participants, and their families. It's very important that you have all those important stakeholders in alignment and that they understand what the common language is and what it means to have a successful experience.
My purpose as a captain is to use the sport of baseball to help teach life lessons that help people down the road.
The adults are purposeful and deliberate about engaging with students about something bigger than themselves. I may do it in my social studies classroom by teaching history, and I may then later do it in my role as a softball coach. But the experience that the kids get, that alignment that is tied through, is that we are here to impact their life in a positive way.
There's no more rewarding feeling for me as an activities director to hear them say that they became a better person through their participation in our activities.
I think the greatest thing that the school board can do is to define success. Publicly state that here's how we are going to define success within our school community. Are we growing and developing better people? Are we modeling kind of character that we want our students to leave our school communities with and go into the world with? Awareness is critical. We have to be aware of the purpose of why sports are part of our school community.
Finally, not only do we have to hold our coaches accountable, we have to hold our school communities accountable to the transformative power of what sport can be, and that is connecting students to caring adults in their learning community.
It's going to take us a minute to get set up here. Bear with me. All right, moving on into our agenda. That was a video from Minnesota State High School League, obviously, that we have to show at a meeting before we can accept residency or whatever we ought to accept with them. So moving on to agenda, we're to the appreciation, recognition, and presentations. Is there any?
Principals, I have a couple of my business people up in our office. With COVID, I can't say enough about the job Dawn Patel has done this year to go through the documentation, the applications, the balancing of the books, so to speak. It's a monumental job, and I really appreciate that. So thank you very much, Dawn.
Any others? All right, moving on. Recognition of citizens for input purposes. Is anybody here that wants to speak? Well, this is where you can have the floor on anything you want. We won't shut you out of every part of the meeting, but if you're here to speak about a cause that's not on the agenda, I'd like you to speak now. Speak to it anyhow, why don't you? Oh yeah, can you stand up so we can all hear you?
There's a mic there too, so they can hear you online.
All right, so I guess I came tonight to speak about the survey that was sent out. So after receiving the school state return survey email, just have some questions that I'd like to get answered. Is that context now, or shall I wait?
Yeah, go ahead and fire them up.
All right, because I have this all written out, my thoughts.
Yep.
So it takes a couple minutes. That's
Okay.
So in the email received from John, it indicated that this is the list that they suggest that be used for the safe return survey in accordance to taking steps to access the federal funding in the amount of $550,000 under the American Recovery Act. So I researched this information for myself to see if I could find the answers to the questions. Firstly, I couldn't really find anything specifically titled the American Recovery Act, but I did locate the American Rescue Plan Act 2021 HR 13.9, the CRRSA, and the CARES Act. To inform myself of the stipulations on the qualifications, the allocations, and the usage of federal grant money. Nowhere in this information I read on the details of each of these grants did I see specific verbiage stating mask requirements for anyone or recommendations to segregate and discriminate between vaccinated and unvaccinated children in masking policies. So I'd like to know who is the they that suggested we include these particular 15 options on this safe return survey that we were all given. And where can that information be located?
Yes. Yeah, I'd be more than happy to. I don't have that right now, but I'd be more than happy to put it out there for you. It came out of, I can't remember where, but they said we need to have a survey. These are the suggestions of the survey. So I'll try to, I can't remember if it's MDE or MDE from the CDC. I can't remember.
Thank you for that. I'm wondering what will be done with the information gathered from the survey. Who's actually responsible for the final decisions that are being made? What authority does our collective voice as parents and members of the school community have over this decision? I see under the American Rescue Plan Act, safe return to in-person instructional protocol, it really only gave 3 guidelines. In general, number 1, that the local education agency receiving funds under this section develop and make publicly available on their local educational website no later than 30 days after receiving the allocation of funds described in paragraph D and 1, a plan for the safe return to in-person instruction and the continuity of services. And number 2, the comment period. Before making the plan described in paragraph 1 publicly available, the local education agency shall seek public comment on that plan and take such comments into account into the development of the plan. Or number 3, if there was a previous plan, the local education agency has developed a plan for the safe return into in-person instruction before the date of enactment of this act that meets the requirements described in paragraph 1 and 2, and that such plan shall be deemed to satisfy the requirements. So what if the collective voice of the community is that we do not want our children masked, poked, rotted, tested, or vaccinated to be able to continue with in-person learning? How does that affect their access to this federal grant money? I've seen scientific research made available on the long-term health risks of masking our healthy children. So I'm going to gladly inform you of just a few pivotal details on why any logical thinking parent would be against this unnecessary ridiculousness when there is not even a state mandate order requiring this nonsense to persist. A mask requirement is an oxymoron to the concept of a safe return to school, given the scientific evidence on the health risks. So much so, here are the states that have already and are currently in the process of actually banning mask mandates in schools. In Texas, there's an executive order prohibiting government entities from masking mandates. It took effect in June 4th, 2021. Following suit is Arkansas. South Carolina issued an executive order that allows parents to opt their children out of mask requirements in school. Closer to home, we have a number of schools and with Wisconsin school districts that have also lifted all mask requirements. There was a bill enacted in Iowa in May of 2021, also bans school mask mandates. In a statement, the Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds states, the state of Iowa is putting parents back in control of their child's education, taking greater steps to protect the rights of all Iowans to make their own health care decisions. While Florida's education commissioner sent a memo to district superintendents stating that face masks should be voluntary for the 2021-2022 school year because they serve no remaining good at this point in our schools. Indeed, even during the height of the pandemic, the CDC study found that mask requirements for students had little effect on COVID-19 incidents at the Georgia schools, while improved ventilation, such as opening a window, actually reduced the cases more than mask mandates for staff and teachers. Which leads me to share some incredibly important research findings from the University of Florida Spectrometry Research and Education Center that was just released on June 15, 2021. A group of concerned parents in Gainesville, Florida submitted 6 masks to the University of Florida's lab for analysis. These 6 masks were brand new or freshly laundered. They were worn for about 5.7 hours by 5 children, ages 6 to 11 years old, and 1 adult. Their analysis detected 11 alarmingly dangerous pathogens on these masks, many of which I can barely pronounce, so I'm just going to summarize in layman's terms. There was pneumonia, tuberculosis, meningitis, bacteria causing bloodstream infections, UTIs resistant to antibiotics, E. coli food poisoning, bacteria that causes Lyme's disease, diphtheria, Legionnaire's disease, bacteria causing severe infections with high morbidity rates. Half of the masks were contaminated with 1 or more strains of pneumonia-causing bacteria. 1/3 were contaminated with 1 or more strains of meningitis-causing bacteria. 1/3 were contaminated with dangerous antibiotic-resistant bacterial pathogens. In addition to that, less dangerous pathogens were also identified, including pathogens that cause fever, ulcers, acne, yeast infections, strep throat, periodontal disease, Rocky Mountain spotted fever, and more. I have a graph that I can share with you that is a compilation of all these statistics that I can pass around if you guys would like to see it. If these facts aren't alarming enough, we should consider the mental health ramifications. The American Rescue Act is actually keenly aware of this issue, since I read it's allocating a large portion of grant money towards prompting schools to provide mental health trauma services and supports, including funding for hiring counselors to make these services fully available to every child within the public school system. Dr. Lawrence Peleveski, the New York pediatrician, along with many others, have been sounding this warning that masks can be harming our children's brain development by promoting fear, stress, panic, and anxiety as it keeps children in a fight-to-flight response driven by the brain. This influences the capacity of development and higher functions of the brain. I mention all this to attest to our own personal experience. So if you're still not convinced of the health risks that masks impose, I'll share with you our personal testimony. My 7-year-old daughter was a first grader here at Royalton last year. She's my only child of 4 that attend public school full-time. She was the one being required to wear a mask for several hours per day. She wore a clean cloth mask every single day. She also happened to be gravely ill for 6 weeks out of the 2020 to 2021 school year, beginning with pneumonia, then in the spring contracting strep throat simultaneously as she contracted mono. At 7 years of age, she was bedridden for 4 weeks. She lost 7 pounds from the inability to eat. And she was as frail as I've ever seen a child. Not another person in our household even contracted so much as a cold or a runny nose the entire course of last year. Coincidentally, no one else in our household regularly had to wear a mask. Through all the contact tracing that we investigated, there was no explanation that resulted in her exposure to anyone with pneumonia or strep throat or infectious mono. My daughter returned to school in May to finish her school year, and since mid-May, she's been struggling with severe anxiety, having multiple anxiety attacks a week. I firmly believe this is also brought on by the long-term mental health effects of masking children. She didn't face any of these health issues prior to May 2021. But no one in this room can convince me otherwise. That anything but constant bacterial exposure, lack of oxygen and clean air, continuous breakdown of the immune system, and respiratory distress that masks cause are responsible for the daughter's illnesses. Compounding that masking issue, I'm seeking clarification on the survey option recommended only unvaccinated children and staff be required to wear masks. I find it completely audacious that a public school would unashamedly ask people in 2021 to choose discrimination of children for any reason, let alone their constitutional right of medical freedom. That's a decision they're not even legally able to exercise as a minor. Given the World Health Organization's strong recommendation as recent as June 23rd, 2021, literally 5 days ago, to not vaccinate children with the COVID-19 vaccine, because more evidence is needed on the use and the risk of COVID-19 vaccines in children. And the most recent VAERS data that is available says there's almost 360,000 reports of adverse events from all age groups following COVID vaccines, nearly 6,000 deaths, and 30,000 serious injuries that have occurred between December 14th, 2020 and June 11th, 2021. That's 6 months since this vaccine has been available. So I'm wondering why this question was even on the survey. But I'd also like to know the percentage of probability that leadership here plans to enforce this segregated mask mandate. This decision alone will help my family determine if we leave the school district or stay. So it's imperative I know who's responsible for this decision and when we'll be notified of such decisions for the upcoming school year. My final thought that I wanted to share with the board tonight on the safe return survey is some of the valuable information that I gleaned by reading the American Rescue Plan Act 2021 multiple times. This federal grant lists up to 25 different actions to be taken to utilize this grant funding that include, but are not limited to, coordinated preparedness and response efforts for local public health departments, purchasing sanitation supplies, improving indoor air quality, such as air purification systems, air exchange system installation into school buildings or classrooms, improving school facilities to minimize and reduce the risk of the spread of infectious disease, training and professional development of sanitizing and minimizing the spread of infectious disease for staff and employees, comprehensive programming to address learning loss, and providing mental health services for every single child. If Royalton School implemented just the investment into an air purification system and some sanitation supplies that are readily available and utilized daily, we would have a completely safe return to school plan. And it doesn't really need to be any more complicated than that. There's no segregation, there's no discrimination, there's no injurious side effects with the return to normalcy for our children. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
going to address the board meeting, last board minutes. Yeah, out of the board minutes.
Oh, Maria Trout.
Thank you.
Maria, may I get your list for you? I'll try to answer as much as I can.
Great, does anybody else want to speak? Anybody else? Last call. All right. Moving on to reports and news, board committee reports. Yeah, is there any reports? Good deal, superintendent's report.
Yes, I would like to thank the school board. I'd like to thank the community and everybody else for supporting me over the past 4 years as I prepare to go out these doors. It's been wonderful. And I've really enjoyed the time here. And I thank everybody sincerely. School board, all the support staff, community, I don't know what else to thank. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you, John. All right, business managers report.
Yes, I'm actually going to talk business. So I'm going to start talking about LTFM. I just want to let the board be aware that at the July board meeting, we will have to approve, like we do every year, the 10-year LTFM plan, the revenues and expenses. I just want that on your docket. So you are aware that that has to be approved just by statute. Has to be to MDE by the 30th of July. So I want that on your guys' radar. I will have that out for you to review. It is a 10-year plan, but it gets redone every year and resubmitted. Oxymoron, but so just want to put that on your radar. We did one of our last Mars submissions. We have another one due on Thursday. That will give us one of our final numbers again. We are still down about 36 kids. It's about 5% of our population. I just want to talk a little bit about our levy. We're coming into the levy season again. Levy opens the end of July, so I will be, again in September, I will be asking the board to certify the maximum. I want to talk about that because when I certified levy last year, I had the board certified. We certified at 1,000. The year before we certified at 1,031. People use adjusted people units, not realizing COVID would impact our population and other things. So we are going to have negative adjustments. Just be aware of that when we start talking about levy and adjustments. We're going to see some negative numbers on our levy for this coming year and the following year. It usually takes it 2 to 3 years to see those adjustments. Hopefully we recover from we will recover our population. It's just that you always have to levy a year ahead of time, so you know, 35, 40 kids, that's going to impact. So we have to pay the taxpayers back for that. So we will see some negative adjustments. You'll see it in LTFM, referendum, and capital. So want to bring that up to the board. Tonight we will be approving the adopted budget. I will talk about that during the time we had discussed that and approve it. So everybody has that sheet of paper with all the spread, with all the numbers on it. I would have had it up on, if we would have been in a different room, I would have had it up on the board for the public to see also, but we are in the cafetorium and the board is on the stage. It's just kind of hard to not have it up there. So, but we will be approving the adopted budget tonight by statute. So, there is the other thing I want to bring up to the board tonight. Mid-State has built that building. I want to say this is the 3rd year, John.
Yes.
I would say. Prior years we have paid out of the general fund. The prior school board, and who's part of that, did not want to put that on a levy. It's $49,000. It keeps going down. Last year was 49. This year it's going to be 49. It will continue to go down. It's a 15-year payment out of district funds. The state has reached out to me wondering if we want to potentially put that on a lease levy. With when we certify our levy, it's a very minute amount, 49,000. It's a very minute amount of money to levy. I just want to put that out there so you guys can chat about that, and we can talk about it at the next board meeting. But I want to continue to talk about that. You guys can talk about that at the next board meeting, but I want to put that on your radar that they have approached me. Every other district does. I don't know. I shouldn't say that. There's one other district in our 6-5 consortium district that does not go out to their taxpayers for that. Takes it out of the general fund, and we're the other district. So I can get the tax impact. It would be pennies on the dollar, honestly, $49,000. So I can get that for you at the next board meeting. Honestly, it came up actually Thursday, and I didn't have time to reach out to the county and the Ellers to see if it is minor. It's within.
What is the
under
timeline on that?
We have to, by September, and it's the September board meeting, we'll have to certify the levy.
Russ?
Don, what were or Randy too, because I don't remember when that happened. What were the pros and cons? I think I would be interested, why Randy, why you guys chose not to, Don, why now would be a better, or just understanding,
I think John has better answers. I
Yeah.
can't love it.
And at the time, what was going on is we were transporting all the way to Mania. And by moving it over there, we can save over $60,000 or $100,000. Do you remember, Joel, you and I both figured that out?
I think it was $376 a day to go to Mania.
And so with that, we said it's easy to roll that money into and not do a lease levy and put an added burden onto our school district.
30 cents per dollar, I don't know if that's reasonable, if our enrollment keeps going down. So I will have the actual numbers. It's a better conversation once I have actual tax impact, but I just wanted to put it out there. But yes, there was savings without transporting to an area. I think we had, it doesn't matter how many kids we had, because we had busing and the cost of the salaries.
Yeah, the problem was it was so far. By the time they turned around and came back, they have to turn around and go back again.
Yeah.
So.
We even had talked about it's cheaper for us instead of making the run there and come back, wait, make a run and come back, to leave the person over there the entire day, actually with them cheaper. Than doing a double run. It was tremendous.
Just to clarify that, Ornamia was the closest level 4 system, so that's why we were transporting to Ornamia, which is the level 4 special ed facility.
Excellent.
So, just the topic of conversation, you guys can mull it over, think about it. I'll have more information at the next board meeting, but until we get to the adopted budget, that's all I have. You guys have any questions? Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Don. Principal's report?
It's at the end of the year, I felt well. By that I mean the attitude of the staff, the students are really good, all hung together. It's a long year, but like I said, I think earlier, from Christmas on, we've really set some consistent procedures and routines, and everybody really stepped up. So pleased with that. The MAP program is running well now in the summer, and we're looking ahead to summer school for kindergarten through 5th grade and special ed starting July 12th. That's something new for us. We have about 60 students registered for that. Otherwise, it's looking ahead now and planning for August.
Okay. I'd like to thank the board for being a part of graduation. Graduated 68 students. It was nice to be able to do it in its graduation-like ceremony for them. The end of the year also went well. It was a long year for the students with the challenges that they faced throughout the year, starting hybrid, distance, multi-week adjustment back into school, and then in-person learning until the end. contact tracing, you name it. Wasn't easy for students, staff, lunch staff, kitchen. But resilience is something that I hope our students gain from it. I'm hoping for a good fall, a normal fall, whatever normal feels like. The other part I'm gonna knock on wood is, this is my 11th year. We hired one teacher in March, and that's the only staff loss that we have this year. And I'm hearing from other principals, school districts, 7, 8, 9 teachers that they're having to hire. Our teachers are invested in our students' lives and in our mission here. And so it's exciting, and I'm gonna knock on wood because I'll go around this around the four.
Be your fault.
So far, yeah, maybe that would be my fault, but it's nice to have stability coming back and tackling the things that we have to do this fall.
All right, athletic director.
Just have a couple things. We ended our spring season without issue, which was awesome. We had Hunter Carlson qualify in the 800 for the state track event and placed 8th. So that was awesome. A little bit different of a state meet is it's a time finals. So it wasn't the top. They had 2 heats, whatever you placed, and they divvied out. So that came out to 8th place, which is awesome for him. Program. We are in full summer mode. Different programs are doing different things at different times. Mornings, afternoons, evenings. They're competing, they're practicing, they're lifting, they're doing all sorts of things to keep themselves involved, and there's a craving for that. We're offering that opportunity for them. Moving forward, thinking ahead, registrations will be open for fall activities for junior high and varsity sports on July 26th. So you'll see those pop up in about a month. And then put a plug in there for physicals. If you're over 3 years on a physical, they are due. So those listening at home or here, if your child is going to be in a junior high or varsity sport and the physical is more than 3 years old, they are required to get a new one for this next year. So before they compete.
Okay. That's just another thing, get back to things as they used to be, so. All right, with that, we're gonna move on to the consent agenda. Everybody had time to review the consent agenda? So we'd like to move the consent agenda.
I'll second.
It was moved by Director Bauman and seconded by Director Garretts to approve the consent agenda, which is items A through E. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? All right, so it was approved by, it was moved by Director Bauman, seconded by Director Garretts to approve the regular board minutes from May 24th, all the claims, accounts, and financials, approval of retirement for Mary Devon, approval of resignations of Autumn Hayes and Caitlin Fossil, and approval of new hires of Alyssa Brown, Kate Borgelink, and Cassandra Broda. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstain. Let the record reflect, motion passes 6-0-0. Consent agenda is approved. And thank you to Mary Devon for your years of service. Okay, discussion, information, and action items. Okay, item A, designation of the identified official with authority for Education Identity Access Management, or the Iowa. John?
Yes, I'll fill you in with a couple of sheets as I'm going along. David, can people hear me online or not? Oh, okay, I thought maybe you're listening back there. Yeah, the Iowa is the individual. It's recommended by the Minnesota Education Department of Ed that is the superintendent or the executive director. With that said, that's why I'm passing out the application for it. And in your board book, you should have already received part of that resolution. There is part on here that does not belong, and if you refer to the paragraphs on this one here, which is part of their presentation, I have the entire presentation here, and I'll explain why in a second. You will notice it says we recommend assigning the Iowa role to the superintendent or executive director. The last point on the back page is the Iowa cannot delegate their authority to authorize user access on behalf of their organization to an Iowa proxy user role. The Iowa proxy is not allowed to delegate. Okay, and that's a very important part. With that said, the proxy should be part of management and needs to be part of the superintendent. And so therefore, what was proposed here was that Dawn would be a proxy, but I will tell you that belongs in the hands of the superintendent as part of management. And so that part should not belong.
And I will just say that I got an email, and I guess it should have been discussed before you got it to public meeting on. But I got an email from a lady at FDE. The only reason that we should have a proxy is fine if it's management, but I guess you and I should have discussed that before we did that about it here. Is there was a superintendent that passed away suddenly, and not here, and there was no proxy, there was no backup. And it took a long time to get anything done on the MD level because there was nobody had any authority to do anything. I mean, whatever, it doesn't matter to me, but it just feels like we should have talked about that. It doesn't matter to me either way, but we should have probably taken it off before it came to the public board meeting time.
Well, Don, I would agree, except that was put on without notifying the board member, myself as the superintendent of schools. There shouldn't be anything on the agenda that isn't brought to a board member first and approved prior to.
I totally agree with you, John.
So, can you clarify to everybody what the Iowa does? Somebody? John?
There are a number of recommendations or a number of different phases that go on from finance and everything else. Some of those phases, for example, Dawn was very helpful today. We're working on a part in SERS, which is the part that finances so many different programs we have, including the latest ESSER and GEARS thing. With that, one person fills out one part, another person fills out another part, and then approval for another. Today, Joel and I were working on part which is called DERS, which has to do with discipline. That's a three-part step. One is by the attendance secretaries or secretary in both buildings. One is done by the principals, and then the final one is approved by me. So there are a number of different cases. The Iowa then also extends that into a second part where they approve who gets each one of those things. And the superintendent is the one that's supposed to determine that. And obviously from input from others. If people need access to a piece of the MVP, then what should happen is the person should apply. We have to know their name or their email to move forward.
I do most of everything I do is in SERS, so
I do most of the aisles, a lot of everything I do. I have to have access to the aisle. So before John, or whenever John came on, Ashley or Chelsea, whoever used to be the Iowa, they left John to come to the Iowa.
So did we change the Iowa policy somewhere that says superintendent?
I don't think so.
No, what happened is MDE changed it in, on the ninth month, 16/2019, you'll see it on the front side. And that's when they changed the whole setup to it and recommended that a superintendent needs to get it straight. That person also is educational identity and access management. There's so many acronyms, I don't even want to go into it. Iowa is one of those.
And I do agree, I'm not arguing with John, even though he thinks I am. But I do agree that the superintendent should be the Iowa. I'm just saying, if something bad would happen, I don't want to be in the position where we have to, I mean, yes, there should be management. It's just that with John, it's never happened. He got to deal with his, he's retiring from mental reasons. But if
So-
something bad would have happened, here we sit.
So couldn't the board just approve?
I
Just
don't know.
set a new Iowa?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's what we're trying to.
That's what we're trying to decide without
So
having this nitpicking stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we make Dr. Christine Merkamp the main, and I don't know if she is.
Yes, she's on, but she can't reply right now, that there is a two-way connection. But that should be up to her to decide. It should be a board action, because what you're doing is taking away from the managerial right of the superintendent. And manager, that is what the superintendent is.
Can we assign Christine today, and then
Yeah.
next month add a second?
Well, I would feel more comfortable talking with the new superintendent. Personally, I don't know how you guys feel.
Right.
So was the ask then for today, I mean, so John's coming close to leaving the district, right? We need to appoint somebody new to take that, to be in that,
We need,
right?
we need to do something, we have action that needs to be done.
Right, so then the second question is, it sounds like we can now have a proxy as well, right? So is that's the second, or there is no, or?
You don't need a proxy right now, it should be appointed by your new superintendent.
Just take out the second.
All right. Okay. Yeah, but it's so, if I'm right, this has to be a roll call vote. So we need a motion.
In the statement that I have for you, you make the motion actually.
I see it. You have one. I have one.
You want me to make the motion?
No, I have one.
You have to.
There we go. I, Director Randy Hackett, Board Chair, recommend the board authorize the below named individual to act as the identified official with authority for this organization, which the organization is Royalton Public Schools, organization number is 0485-01. And the name is Dr. Christine J. Merkamp, title Superintendent of Schools. Okay. So do we need a second on that?
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. It was moved by Director Hackett, seconded by Director Lang. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none. Will the superintendent call the roll?
Sorry about that, I just have to sleep reading the next one. Tyra Bauman,
Aye.
Russ Jarrett,
Aye.
Randy Hackett,
Aye.
Ryan Hofstad,
Aye.
Mary Lane,
Aye.
Angela Rory.
Let the record reflect, the vote goes 6-0-0. Christine J. Warekamp is now the Iowa of the Royalton Public Schools Organization number 0485-01. All right, moving on. Approval of the adopted budget. And Don will talk to that. Everybody's got a copy of it in front of you.
Don will actually talk to that.
Yeah. That's what I said.
So I've spent quite a bit of time on this adopted budget with all the changes and lack of cooperation on the legislative level.
Do you have answers now? Or not really? Do you have any answers there yet now or not really?
I think there are more answers today than there were last week on the legislative level. I think right now, I'll hold up. I don't know if they've actually gone to vote yet. John was supposed to check. I don't know.
No, there wasn't
Yeah.
anything yet.
Yeah, there was some issues on public safety, so nothing's come to fruition yet, but I think the education bill is pretty much wrapped up. It's gonna balance out. We got, well, what happened, the last indication I got was a very large spreadsheet, and every district got a percentage broken down by what the compensatory was. So, looks like we should get about 2% for this year. So.
That's not even fair.
That's how they've been doing everything with federal funding. And so some districts got more money, some got less money, but I think it'll average out in the wash. I didn't really pay attention to what a lot of other districts were getting because I have to pay attention to what we're going to do for our district. So at the end of the day, we are looking at 2% from what the spreadsheet says. It hasn't gone to a concrete vote yet, so the statute says that we have to approve an adopted budget. So this is the framework for the school year 21-22. So I did set an adopted budget. So if you look at it, we are going to set an adopted budget with 1,011 APUs. So I went up a little bit because I do think we will recover a few students this coming year, depending on how the fall goes. I think things are going back to normal. I'm hoping so. The first page you guys are looking at, and I do apologize again to the public. Generally, this is on a screen and you can see it, but in the cafeteria, obviously, you can't have it on a screen because the school board is on the stage. But if you do want copies, please see me after the meeting, and I will definitely provide those for you. But it looks like we are going to set an adopted budget. And this is Fund 1, unrestricted and restricted. So it's all of our general fund together. So I'm setting an adopted budget with expenditures at $10,065,887. That's in expenses. And I'm setting revenue at $9,885,319. So we're showing a tad deficit spending of about $180,000 coming into our adopted budget. And some of that is, I did project, and I will talk about this, I did get federal and state approval to put a bus. In fact, we are off rotation and we need a bus purchase. So I did get state approval to use CARES money to purchase the bus. So that came out at $92,250. So I would have had it on last month's board meeting, but I didn't have any. I had to get federal approval first, then I had to get state approval. Once I got that, I just got the approval last week. So I am looking for the board approval tonight to go ahead and get that bus, or we are looking at back order issues. So we want a bus before school starts. Yeah, also the other two things that impact this budget is we are looking at purchasing hopefully 2 vans. I don't have quotes on them, so I'm not going to have any approval on that at this board meeting, but they are on this budget. I'm looking at our special ed van is going to be put out of service in December. The
criteria is, so many years and so many miles before we have to put out of service for special ed kids. So I am going to be using, I have to get state approval on this, but I will be using some of our fund balance and medical assistance or MA fund balance to purchase this van. So the money's already there, it's sitting in a fund balance, but I do need special approval to do that from the state. And the other van is going out of service, that hauls some of our spec kids and gen ed kids. And I am using some capital dollars to do that, and some regular gen ed dollars, but it looks like we're gonna get about a $19,000 trade on this. So, we should come out okay on that. So that's impacting some of our budget. We got some large purchases. Some of the other things that are impacting this budget is, obviously technology. We are purchasing a lot of devices when you are looking at potentially distance learning and learning from home. We have to definitely keep one-to-one initiatives in place, and the state has given us approval to purchase some more Chromebooks and some other devices. We did update our content filter, David, firewall. Those are some big spending items that have to come on this budget also. So you will see some big ticket items coming on this budget. The other thing I wanted to say to address the air quality, I forgot to say when we were talking about my part of the, we did replace with some dollars that we got. They were CARES dollars, but we had about 6 weeks to spend this money. We got money from the federal government in October. We had to apply for it. We had 6 weeks. We had from 8 weeks, but we had to apply for it first. So we actually had 6 weeks to spend with this money. We had from October to December 30th, and we did update our HVAC system on the north end of our building. So everybody in this building has air quality except for one section. So we are possibly, that is on the docket to talk about once our new superintendent comes on board and committee gets involved. So I just wanted to reassure you that we have addressed some of those air quality issues. Not all of them, but some of them in this building. So just wanted to reassure you that we have looked at that, and it is on our radar. So that is our Fund 1, total Fund 1 budget. So yes, I did project some deficit spending, but again, like I say, every adopted budget, it's not doomsday. It should be fine, as long as we stay within our ADMs. Like I said, I projected 1,011 ADMs. We should, or APUs.
How far under that were we at the end of the year?
How far under
1,011.
we, right now, our current Mars, we're at 1,002.
Okay.
So I'm thinking, and
Yep.
we're close to that. I am projecting we will see some kids back. I think in elementary, which has more structure, the high school, you're gonna see those people, they do generally, they're more transients just by population. But our elementary, that has a little more structure. I think Dr. Grabata is gonna see some of that influx come back. You did have homeschoolers this last year, and you did have some people that had different options in different districts. I think we'll see those families back this coming year. We've made some phone calls, and the indication is pretty strong that we will see some of those families back. So I think you can speak with that.
I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, so, yeah, I don't think we're that far off. I did forecast though, if we come back at 10:30, I'll be celebrating.
How does this compare to like last year's adopted budget?
Last year's adopted budget, I forecasted 1,036 adjusted pupil units. We ended the year at 1,042. I didn't put us down. That was just a stellar year. Nobody expected us to have 1,042. And again, when you have a 32% population that's open enrolled, it's hard to forecast that. So yeah, I did forecast 1,000 in budget. Last year's adopted budget, I did budget at 1,036. Not even close to that this year, and maybe not next year either. But we will recover. We're going to, the longer things happen with where we're at with the pandemic, and people in society gets more comfortable with where things are, our numbers will recover. So And of course, our revenues do reflect some of the CARES dollars that she was talking about, and some of the Recovery Act dollars that we were gifted. Remember, I just want everybody to keep in mind that this is one-time money. This isn't money that we get for the rest of our duration tenure for this district. This is one-time dollars to help us with the impact of what's happened in our population, help us with some of the things that you talked about earlier with sanitation, with air quality, with mental health. Some of those things really have, a lot of them have impacted our children, and we do need to address that. So this is what a lot of those learning loss is another one that's going to hit home. So that's what these dollars were for. So that's where we're at on the I'll finish first, John.
Yeah, all I wanted to say is Don alluded to, some people might read the paper, we're supposed to get 2.45, and we were notified, it goes by what school district you're in. Our school district will only, at least on the last one, I haven't seen the latest one yet. Either it's Don, we've been kind of watching all day because we wanted an accurate report, is that we'd only get 2% this coming year.
Yeah.
That's what we were hoping we would get to start with, and wanted at least 2.5, but 2.45 across the state. So some districts are getting far more than that. Some are getting less than that. Some have got, I think, 1.7 and as the low, and we're also one of the low. I'd also add to you that for the general public, we are with public schools, we're about 8th or 9th from the bottom of per pupil average. Some schools get far more than that, 14 to 1,600 or $16,000 per student. What do we get roughly, Don?
We're getting right now $9,123 per child. So, and this is all coming so last minute. That's why I believe I spent more time on an adopted budget than I've ever spent. Like I said, it is framework. A lot of people don't spend this much time, but when you're, like I said, it's not open enrollment, we have to invest a lot of time in these numbers to make sure we're moving them forward and we're giving you the best possible, most accurate outcome we can from the gate. So that's why we spend so much time on this. So we're going to move on to Fund 2, which is our food service. We have been given a waiver from the feds once again to offer free lunch, breakfast to our children again this school year. So that will impact our numbers again, hopefully. It's not going to change our food. We're going back to what we were at the end of the year. I'm hoping to bring back a salad bar, hopefully, and continue with the home cooked meals. And I am projecting a gain in Fund 2. Not much, but a gain. I'm projecting expenses of $496,612 and revenue of $508,499. So I'm excited because all year it seems if we don't go into distance learning and have to deliver meals, our food service, we do have a pretty good program. We have done, I think it's come a long way from what it was. I see somebody shaking their head. High school does pretty good. The elementary, do you have kids in elementary? Yeah. What's happening there is we're more tied to what COVID is right now. The kids are still eating in their rooms. It has to be more grab and go. That's what the limitation is from the state and from USDA. Until that's lifted and we know what's happening on that level with the elementaries, we're still, unfortunately, we're still tied to that rule. So you're still going to see that coming into this fall.
It's such a lack of nutrition. So much highly processed. There's no homemade stuff. There's like no vegetables.
We do offer vegetables. We cannot change how it works right now. We are offering vegetables.
So I think we can maybe have a little higher standards for our kids. Like some kids.
Now you're going to have to talk to USDA and go to the state level because we meet all the criteria that they have set forth for us. We're actually so hand-tied by work value. we have so many calories we can offer for a meal, so I do agree, I eat a lot more vegetables than that, so that's just something that we should really send to USDA and to the state level, saying we wish our kids had a lot more, higher value caloric. I agree with you on that. So let's go to the Fund 4, which is our community education, community service fund. I am also projecting a gain in revenue. I'm showing expenses, and this is our whole complete community education program, and that entails our preschool, our family education, early education, family ed, our recreation, which is some programs that Ted Hansen operates, our MAP program, which is our child care program. So that all encompasses that whole Fund 4, which is our community education, community service programs. So I am budgeted $303,053 in expenses, and I am projecting $359,105 in revenue. I have forecasted probably a little lower, just in case you want to put the word out. Our fitness center is opening July 1st. Memberships will be available. You can, I think, apply online. Anybody 10? Yes? Or Tony? Okay. Just want to put that out there, put the word out, that will be opening. That's also a community education-based availability. So that's what I'm looking to have approved coming into July. Does anybody have questions? I didn't separate out the unreserved because this is an adopted budget, but I will tell the board that in the unreserved fund, which is our general fund, which is our operating fund, we had more revenue than expenses. So that's what I forecasted. It wasn't a lot, but when you showed $180,000 deficit spending, and that was total funds.
Can you tell me where your projected fund balance is at?
Right now?
Yeah.
For the end of the year? I haven't looked at it yet, because I haven't been able to close anything yet, because we're still trying to be enforced. We'll
I
be that.
know it's tough to know what to do.
You know what, in 2 weeks, I'll be able to tell you.
Okay.
We're still gonna be in that 20% range.
Okay. All right.
So I'm asking the board to approve this budget. Once it's approved, it will then turn into a working budget where, Dr. Woodcamp and I will be working on that as a live document.
All right. Any questions for Don? Anybody? All right, somebody want to move this? Sure. It was moved by Director Hofstad, seconded by Director Bauman, to approve the adopted budget for 21-22. Any discussion? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. 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 All opposed? And all abstain. Let the record reflect, motion passes 6-0-0. The adopted budget for 2021-2022 is approved. Okay, approval of donations by resolution. All right, so for people who don't come to regular board meetings, we really appreciate when people donate stuff to us, but MDE has changed the format of how we accept donations, and now we have to do it by resolution. So it seems kind of chunky, but it's just the way it goes. So the first one we're going to do is Royalton American Legion, $750 to the Royalton School District for the Community Education Summer Rec Program. Somebody want to introduce that?
I'll introduce.
Member Lang introduced the following resolution and moved its adoption. Whereas Royalton American Legion has generously offered to donate $750 to the Royalton School District. Whereas the conditions on this gift are for use in the improvements for the Community Education Summer Recreation Program. Therefore, be it resolved by the Royalton School Board to gratefully accept the gift. The motion for adoption of the foregoing resolution was duly seconded by member Garrett's. And upon a roll call vote there being taken thereon, the following voted. Superintendent, please call the roll.
Ira Bauman,
Aye.
Director Garrett,
Aye.
Director Hackett,
Aye.
Director Hofstad, Director Lang,
Aye.
Director Rory,
And the following voted against? No one. And the following who abstained? Is no one. The foregoing resolution passes 6-0-0 this 28th day of June, 2021. All right, the next one's going to be Langola Township for $2,000 for the community ed program. Somebody want to introduce this one? So moved. Member Garrett introduced the following resolution and moved its adoption. Whereas the Township of Langola has generously offered to donate $2,000 to the Royalton School District. Whereas the conditions on this gift are for use in the improvements for community education program. Therefore, be it resolved by the Royalton School Board to gratefully accept this gift. The motion for adoption of the foregoing resolution was duly seconded by member Hofstad. And upon a roll call vote being taken thereon, the following voted in favor of. Superintendent, will you call the roll?
Director Bauman,
Aye.
Director Garrett,
Aye.
Director Hackett,
Aye.
Director Hofstad, Director Lang,
Aye.
Director Rory,
And the following voted against? No one. And the following who abstained? No one. The foregoing resolution passes 6-0-0, approved this 28th day of June, 2021. The next one will be the Hutchinson Incorporated has donated $72 for the FFA program. Somebody want to move this?
I'll move it.
Member Bauman introduced the following resolution and moved its adoption. Whereas Hutchinson Incorporated has generously offered to donate $72 to the Royalton School District. Whereas the conditions on this gift are for use in the improvements for the FFA program. Therefore, be it resolved by the Royalton School Board to gratefully accept the gift. The motion for adoption of the foregoing resolution was duly seconded by member Hackett. And upon a roll call vote being taken thereon, the following voted in favor of. Mr. Superintendent, will you call the roll?
Dr. Bauman,
Aye.
Director Garrett,
Aye.
Director Hackett,
Aye.
Director Hofstad, Director Lang,
Aye.
Director Rory. Congratulations, Tyra.
And the following voted against, no one. And the following abstained, no one. The foregoing resolution passes 6-0-0, approved this 28th day of June, 2021. And now we have the $2,500 for the Royalton School District for girls basketball uniforms by Trevor and Tiffany Ackerbeck. Somebody want to introduce this one?
I will.
Member Lang introduced the following resolution and moved its adoption. Whereas Trevor and Tiffany Ackerbeck have generously offered to donate $2,500 to the Royalton School District. Whereas the conditions on this gift are for use in the improvements for girls basketball uniforms. Therefore, be it resolved by the Royalton School Board to gratefully accept the gift. The motion for adoption of the foregoing resolution was duly seconded by member Garrett. And upon a roll call vote being taken thereon, the following voted in favor thereof. Mr. Superintendent, will you call the roll?
Director Bauman,
I'm gonna abstain.
Director Garrett,
Aye.
Director Hackett,
Aye.
Director Hofstad, Director Lang,
Aye.
Director Rari.
Following voted against, no one, and the following abstained, Director Bauman. Foregoing resolution passes 5-0, well, does it go 6-0-0? Point of order.
Yeah.
6-0-0. Approved this 28th day of June, 2021. All right, and thank you to everybody who donated. It seems impersonal to do it that way, but that's the way we're required to do it, so thank you, everyone. All right, moving on. We have the approval of the Minnesota State High School League resolution for membership. So I have the resolution for membership here. We need it to be, somebody needs to move it, and somebody needs to second it.
Make that motion. I'll second.
Okay. How much of this do you guys want me to read? Can I just give a synopsis of it? It's basically saying that we want to participate in high school sports. Right? And we're gonna do whatever they say by their governing board and everything else. And without it, we can't do it, so that's the thing. So it was moved, I'm sorry, I didn't write that down. Who moved it? Lane. And seconded by? Been approved by, moved by Director Lang and seconded by Director Bauman to approve the Minnesota State High School League resolution for membership. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. 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 All opposed? All abstain.
Point of order, it's a resolution.
Oh, it needs to be, oh, okay. I'm sorry, people. Mr. Superintendent, will you please call the roll?
Director Bauman.
Aye.
Director Garrett.
Aye.
Director Hackett.
Aye.
Director Hofstad. Director Lang.
Aye.
Director Rory.
Let the record reflect that the Minnesota State High School League resolution for membership passes 6-0-0. Just so you know, that sound was the air coming out of my tires. So, all right. Item E, return to school, safe learning plan.
Safe learning survey.
Survey.
I do want to emphasize that it's a survey to give an overall picture of, how people feel, at least the people that responded. The first thing I have to say is I'm so happy, and it's one of the things I'm thankful for landing in this community. When we've asked you to fill out surveys, you've certainly done that. And that gives the board, it gives anybody in a committee an opportunity to see how you feel about things and the places we can go. Again, the question came up, where did these questions came from? I think so much of this, you have no idea. I had to have that survey put out the 20th, and we were notified, I think, on the 15th or 14th. The 15th, we needed it, and they sent something out to us, I believe it was MBE, on the 16th. And I think what they did was really fast scrambling to put it down because they were notified by the feds. Part of the problem is, and this came from superintendents from all over the state of Wisconsin. I know I sit in on two of our discussions is, but we're already back to school. Why do we need to have a back to school survey? And we've done that already to last year. And they said, well, please do it. And they put out some of these suggestions. I also went to the committee, our COVID-19 committee, and asked them for input all as well. I did make a mistake when I did put it out there. My apologies for that. I said 550,000. It's a little more than 500,000. The exact amount I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. The survey is online for everybody. I'm going to read off some of the high ones, and starting with classrooms and other gathering places cleaned and sanitized daily. Like that was brought up, and that's like a duh. But there were 176 people said absolutely. That's 53.8%. That was the highest one that we had. The second one was, again, this will be not surprising, sanitizing supplies, including hand sanitizers, readily available to staff and students. That was 52.6%. Again, very high. Distance learning, options for medically fragile individuals. The survey came out to be 31.8%, 104 people went for that one. The next one up is none of the above, and that came out, 96 people went for that. That was 29.4%. With that, the next one was continue to follow all Minnesota Department of Education and Health recommendations. That is 84 people, and that was 25.7%. I'll be more than happy to hand out some of these later on, but I want to give you that. Also on here, all the individual inputs are put here, obviously without the names, so people can read all the different opinions, and that becomes so very, very important for anybody to see those different thoughts where everything is. I'm not sure, Maria, if yours is going to be easily spotted in this. I'm smiling, but you've got to understand, we have to hear all voices, and Randy can attest to this. I have said since day one, we must hear all voices, not just the loudest. And it becomes so very, very important. And I'm not going to take the time to skim, but it is so varied on what it is. From here, these questions and this survey will go into the committee. I will not be here for that committee, and I'm not sure how it will be run. That will be up to our next superintendent, but it's pretty cut dry. And we need to have people from all over, not just staff. We have a number of parents on that, as well as 2 board members on it. And they will go and sift through all these. They might have further questions, but we can't do a thing until we find out where we're going. We will use the guidelines. I'm sure you'll use the guidelines by the state. I have a suspicion the reason they want the survey is they want to know where people are coming from. And I personally am hoping that they will turn it over to every district to control their own district and their own destiny. And how things come out will pretty much tell you which way to go. Most districts went to that this last fall because we ended up not going absolutely by the percentages that were first giving us. And when we were told by the state, those were just the beginning, we have to take a closer look. That opened the door to have more local control in what we did. And we certainly use that because what we looked at is what was going on in the school, not in the county. We looked at what was happening in the school and are we seeing, what are we actually seeing? And when we closed down this year, not quarantining is a whole different story. When we closed down this year, we closed down because our staff was out there. We couldn't sustain what we were doing with the number or the few number of staff we had in various areas. Are there any questions from the board?
So just to clarify, John, so basically this, you're saying this was input to start to take into our COVID, I don't remember, task force, whatever you call it.
Committee, yes.
Committee, and I'm sure we're always looking for more committee members, right?
Always.
So absolutely, if you're interested, I would encourage you to attend because it wasn't that much fun to get people in that committee to begin with. So please, if you're interested, do so. But I'm thinking, I'm speaking for all the board that we were definitely challenged with what we needed to do and how to react and changed. And so I think the thing to remember is that we're also here trying to do the best we can with the information we have, right? I know there's different opinions on things, but I don't know that many of us would have.
The problem with COVID is, along with the different opinions, the opinions were so far at the other ends of the spectrum and were felt very passionate at both ends. So, you know, you could walk into a room one day and have parents at one end of the spectrum and the next day have them at the other end. And it was really trying. So it just,
And I
I
know
don't
my,
think the administration had any
No.
easier time or teachers or anybody else, or, you know, for that fact, people in their regular jobs and everything else. So I just think it was a tough year, so.
and then I think, and Randy, you and I had a discussion too, where we talked about coming back, and that was in January and December, and I think that was really hard, but I came to the conclusion that I would rather have been safe than sorry, and define what safe is, right? Because obviously we heard that you know, it doesn't work for everybody either, right? So, I think that we all have that challenge, so it'll be interesting.
I think as we
Hopefully we
move
don't have any
forward
challenges
as
going
a
forward.
school district, the best thing to do is to look back at the past year at what worked good. We did a huge social experiment on our kids, you know, not purposely, but I mean, that's what we did. And there are some learning options and some things that are going to say, you know, that's when it changed. I could see in 15 years, we're gonna say everything changed at that point. I mean, I've gotten more proficient at a computer. Good Lord's sake, imagine the kids have gotten a lot better, so, we gotta just capitalize on the things that we did good and, not lose face on that, so. Is there any other questions about the return to school survey?
I just had one, I guess, one question. So I wasn't on the board when COVID first happened, right? And protocols and things were being put into place. But with husband in the district, I know that the things that were put into place were because there were mandates or because we needed to do them to continue to be funding. So I would think moving forward as different mandates or as the state comes out with like the mask mandate, right? We don't have to wear them right now. So as we watch kind of what the government says or what the CDC or whoever, you know, what they advise, we'll look at that. A lot of us probably aren't gonna say anything until it gets really close to the start of school, so I don't know how much we can really say.
It mainly was all Monday.
Right.
There was no local.
Right.
I was
So
gonna
I
say,
think-
Randy, that's the joke of the butt of the joke. They say they gave it back to the schools, that's whoever tells, that's.
Right, so I guess what I'm just trying to say is I don't think we're gonna, I think we're gonna look at what mandates are and what we're kind of held to. And
Well,
go from there.
The committee will do the work. The board will approve it, and that's the way it works, so. I strongly recommend people that have a strong feeling in this that, watch the website, and when we put the outcry for community input and community involvement in the committee meetings, that you try to be there. We don't ever turn anybody away from a committee meeting because sometimes you get lonely looking at the same board members and wondering what people are really thinking, so. Any other questions about the survey? Now we're gonna move on. Moving on to the secondary and elementary handbook. Everybody's had a chance to review the secondary and elementary handbooks. Any question about the secondary and elementary handbooks? Somebody like to move for approval of the secondary and elementary handbooks? Is there a second?
I'll second.
It was moved by Director Hofstad and seconded by Director Lang to approve the secondary and elementary handbooks. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstain. Let the record reflect, motion passes 6-0-0. Secondary and elementary handbooks are approved. Approval of new bus purchase. Well, who wants to speak to that? Don?
This bus purchase is the money we are receiving from federal funds to the CARES dollars. I had to get special approval from the feds and the state to purchase this bus. We had a bus out of service that had to come back and get DOT, and it was very expensive to bring this bus into service. We had to create additional routes because of our hybrid plan. And we have to have a reliable bus if we go back into that mode, which one never knows, so we hope not. But we do have the 3 oldest buses in the state, so we do plan on trading one of those in. And I would love to purchase one more bus, but I don't think we're in the budget for it this year, but we will be trading one of our old girls in for this bus.
Dawn, if they don't approve it today, do we have to go through the bid process again?
I want them to approve it today, otherwise we lose the purchase.
That's why you asked.
We have to go through the process at the state level, not the approval, when we lose the bus we have, when we already lost one.
Thank you. I wanted to make that
Yeah,
clear.
because they don't hold us on us, especially now with the back order situation. So I would hope that because it's money we're already receiving, that we would approve that tonight.
I'll move this for adoption.
I'll second.
It's moved by Director Hackett and seconded by Director Lang to approve a new school bus purchase for $92,450.52. Any discussion? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? All abstain. Let the record reflect the approval of a new bus for $92,450.52 is approved 6-0-0. Moving on, upcoming meeting schedule, Monday, July 26th at 6 p.m., regular board meeting. Any other ones set?
Not yet.
Do we have anything set for the vice principal committee?
I did not want to set anything up on that because I don't want to speak for Dr. Workamp. And at the same time, I didn't want to start negotiations with me and then have to finish with somebody. She'll probably contact me people.
Yeah, I would guess she will be contacting us and probably have us sit down in one-on-one and if multiple of us sit down and have that conversation with her. Because we'll all bring different perspectives of what's important and everything else, and she'll have to sit down and decide. So, as for right now, the only thing on the upcoming meeting schedule is Monday, July 26th, the regular board meeting. Is there any other meetings? If not, I'm looking for a motion for adjournment.
Hold on, I have a question. So what is the next steps for the safety plan thing? Then does this go to the committee to get discussed and it comes
Yes.
back to the board? Okay.
It will go to committee. Since we're getting a new superintendent, we don't have the meetings set yet.
Okay.
But we will, and I'll make sure that it makes the front page of the web page. So just keep on watching the web page. It cycles through 6-8 pages sometimes. Keep watching the web page, and we'll put a call out for community members and a number to get a hold of us. And yep.
It also, last time we had a public open meeting for people to contribute information to. And we had.
Yeah. So if some people don't want to sit on a committee, we probably will have a listening session too.
So are you saying some people could join this committee?
Oh, yeah.
Or come to the, okay.
Oh, yeah, you can do either one. You can come and watch or you can come and participate. So
And that's all available on the website that we can,
the information will be there.
okay. And then
So-
the numbers on there, if they like want to join and get involved with that? Okay.
Mhm. So. All right, anything else? Otherwise, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn this thing. So moved by Director Garrett, is there a second? Second by Director Lang, to adjourn the meeting at 7:36. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? All abstained? Meeting's adjourned, 6:00.